of Reddit. What was your worst gig? Here's a post by Deleted. In the grand scheme of things, this wasn't that bad, but most of my band experiences have been pretty good, so it's all relative. When I was in college, an acquaintance recruited me to play in a band with him. He had been sitting on a pile of songs he had written, and every practice would consist of him teaching us, mostly note for note, of how to play the songs. The drummer and I were allotted a little bit of creative freedom for our parts here and there, but a solid 85 to 90% of the time, it was the singer-songwriter guitarist telling us what to do. The music was all right, if you like that kind of early mid-2000s post-hardcore emo stuff. Although he was trying to sound like Claudio Sanchez from Coheed and Cambria, woo! So his singing was weird, high-pitched, and kind of effeminate. We played one show. My other band was opening, and this band was the closer, so there were some acts in between. Right after my first band finished, we insisted that the drummer and I go to his dorm and listen to the recording of our band practice from earlier in the day, while given constructive criticism. Afterwards, we went and played our set, and it went all right, but I realized that this wasn't for me. The drummer and I quit the next day. That happens a lot. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with someone who has a singular creative vision and isn't particularly interested in collaboration, but in a small college town scene where most of the gigs are playing in basements or on porches for free happens way too often. With the occasional bar gig that throws you gas money, boy, that's about accurate, and drink tickets, if you're lucky, being someone's sideman isn't really worth it. LOL. Also, as someone who has played in a few local scenes over the years, the whole thing where he being the singer-songwriter guitar player, skipped the other band's performances that night and only showed up to play while he was supposed to be playing rubbed me the wrong way. Local scenes have a community aspect to them, and people in bands make up a fair amount of the audience at any gig offering. Support your local artists. Some venues are brutally loud or hot, and I'm not saying you need to spend the entire time in the front row, but at least go to stand around with some people and hang out and enjoy the music and help spread the love. That's what music and everything is for. I would have to rate that one on a scale from 1 to 10. That's about a 3, to be honest, as far as, like 1 being bad, but 10 being like super horrendous. So about a 3, maybe a 2.5 to 3. Not really a whole bunch to talk about there. It just seemed like there was just a band trying to get together, see if they meshed, and well, they didn't mesh. Here's another one. This one's kind of short. A posting by Logstar. The bad gig story is when the jealous husband of the singer in band number 1 tried to jump me while I was loading my rig into the car on Saturday afternoon for a gig with band number 2. Long story short, he ended up in the hospital. Ooh, dang. And I wasn't linked to the gig, but I did have to go back inside and get a clean shirt first. Also, I quit band number 1 the next day because I don't need that kind of stress in my life. Also, he would have been more jealous had he known what was really going on behind his back. Yikes. But the most important question was asked by Once the Bad Touch. Boy, what a name. And the question was all your equipment okay? That's funny. All right, we got anything else here? This one's got some length to it. Let's see, went to try for a band. Oh, I'm sorry, this post is by Habitually Slap My Bass. Oh, bass player. Rock on. Went to try it for a band that lived not far from me, and when I got there, I heard what sounded like dying animals. One guitarist used a 7-string guitar tuned to A standard, while the other guitarist was tuned to what he thought was drop B, Neither one had a tuner, so neither of them were even close. I tuned them both to A, D standard on the 6 string. Fixed a bass player to do all this? Guys, really? All right. Fixed a couple of loose tuners and output jacks and proceeded to leave and never go back. There was no musical knowledge, and for me, that's a sign that I needed to go. Especially since they were not in tune, but playing the same positions. I've been playing for 20 years and didn't have high expectations, but damn, that was a low moment, because I could have stuck around and tried teaching them some basic stuff. I play guitar as well. Okay, that's why I'm a bass player by name, but really a guitar player. That's what all of us are. I play guitar as well, but I don't have a bunch of free time away from my kids, and would rather not spend the time teaching. Understand, dude. That happens a lot. It's okay to have dreams, and a lot of people don't think it through. They just try to jump in and do the whole band thing without thinking, oh yeah, I need to actually know something first. And that's cool. It's all part of the fun. It's all part of the learning experience. Let's see what else we got here. Another one from a deleted. I'm assuming this is a different deleted. I had a bandmate in my first band in high school that was always flat. And the worst thing was that he thought he sounded great. He was trying some sort of apathetic 90s grunge alt rock kind of thing. And this was in the late 2000s. So he was like 15 or 20 years too late. That hurts. That might have been me. Wait a minute. Hold on. That wanted to sound unpolished and raw. But he sounded out of tune. Haha. We would switch off on duties, and one guy covering vocals and rhythm guitar, and the other guy would play bass during the songs. So about halfway through our set, we would switch back, and it was all right because we would both use my bass for the songs. Where I was singing, I used my own guitar, which was a less nice Squire Affinity Strat compared to his Fender Tele, but at least I would have saved some time not having to tune mid-set. Oh man, I got some stories about tuning or lack of tuning, but I might save those for my own tales from the road. Let's see what else we got here. Here's this one's a little lengthy. Let's see if it's worth the read. Tree 2 apparently is a guitar player, 6-string. I generally have a pretty great experience throughout all different bands. Some ups, some downs, the typical band stuff. One band in particular, though, this ought to be good if he's spotlighting one. I originally got brought into this band by my buddy, who was a new drummer for the band. That happens a lot. They needed a bassist. He called me. It was all covers, country, classic rock mostly. That's good stuff. That's fun. A lot of people like that. Not really my jam, but they were in need of someone to fill in. So sure, I'll help them out until they can find someone long term. That's a bro. Excellent move. At least they can make a little bit of money while they're waiting on their full-time guy. Good deal. Right off the bat, I started getting bad vibes. Guitarist is super strange, really negative, and slightly rude. Guitar player? Rude? Know it all? What? I don't know what you mean. I'm just going to keep reading. Starts talking about how they've always had issues finding dependable members, lists off a bunch of reasons why nobody's worked out. Well, I know enough to recognize the real issue, but I'm foolish enough not to turn and run. I'm going to use that line. That's a good one. I stick around for a few months, reminding them that I'm temporary. I played a number of mediocre gigs, one where I didn't get paid. Got some stories on that too. Eventually, that got made right. Well, that's good. The whole time, the guitarist was super controlling and pedantic. Anytime I missed something, he'd mention it. Even if it was a clear one-time mess-up, he wouldn't let anyone leave or get paid until after the trailer was packed, but he insisted on packing it himself, so it took at least an hour. I'm gonna plead the fifth on this one. It sounds a little familiar. I'm kidding. I started realizing that I was investing 6 to 8 hours easily with each gig for a meager pay. God, that's the musician's life right there, bro. I mean, come on. I was miserable because nobody was having fun. If you're not having fun, you ain't doing it right. That's just plain and simple. The vocalist was a sweetheart, and you could almost tell she was sorry for the guitarist, but she wouldn't put her foot down. I don't like to leave a band without replacement, but I was really, really close. If they had a possible lead, a young kid, they did have a possible lead, a young kid, but he was excited to get started, not quite ready yet. Okay, I'll fill in a little bit longer, light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. I can see what's happening here. I put in my 2 weeks notice, and there's somebody who's supposed to be taking my spot. Okay, now, been there, done that. Let's see what happens. Then at one practice, the vocalist shows up from work, clearly distressed and having a rough day. Honestly, I probably should have just called it and let her have the night off. I think her and the guitarist were romantically involved somehow. Oh, never do that. Never do that. It's kind of like that old rule about never defecate where you eat. Don't date somebody at work. This is the same thing. Unless you're Stevie Nicks, and then you can make your ex-boyfriend sing about how much of an asshole he is. That's one of my favorite memes. I love that one. Let's see. Having a rough day, called it. Romantically involved somehow. I never really figured that out. Well, he apparently couldn't read the room and kept digging at her and just generally being a prick. He kept at it, and eventually she ended up in tears. I was done. I typically charge much more for therapy. You kind of got to be a therapist sometimes, huh? Well, that would be the end of the story, but about 3 years later, a well-respected bassist in the area reaches out and says he knows a country pop rock band looking for a bassist. I say, let me hear more. I've got some room in the schedule and I can help out. I find out it's the same band. So I ask if he can find out the name of the guitarist in the band. It's a different name. So, okay, cool. All the photos online are missing the guitarist from the last time, so I figured I must be safe. Since I really don't mind anyone else in the band, I tell him to send my number over. Well, guess who reaches out? I had the guitarist's number saved in my phone, so I immediately see who's calling, and my heart just sinks. I think maybe it's a number that the band uses for booking. Nope. I'd been given the bait and switch. Honestly, I can take some of the blame there. I should have known better. Well, that's a real responsible person there, knowing, hey, I put myself in this situation. I could have handled this differently. I could have just hung up the phone when I seen the number, but owning up to it. This is what I did. Let's see. Honestly, I could take some of the blame there. I should have known better. It wasn't worth risking it. But to be honest, this time around was generally much better. He was still a prick. Oh, there's so many stories there. But I'd step into it since no one else would. I guess by stepping into it, he means telling the guy, hey, shut up, chill out, relax. If you're going to be like this, I'm leaving. Let's see. And they had a different drummer who I got along well with. And eventually, after I'd left the band, he and I kept in touch. I ended up helping out when he needed a bassist, meaning the drummer. That ended up blowing up in a very interesting way, not his fault, but that's a story for another time. Well, I'm going to give that one an upvote because that just reminded me of a lot of stuff. And how do I do that? There we go. That's pretty cool. Well, I'm going to try to do more of these stories. That should be enough for today, but not only does it just remind me of past experiences and such, but I love hearing these kinds of things. Not necessarily the bad experiences. I want to hear the good ones too. If anybody here in the group wants to share their experiences, please do. But I'll go ahead and I'll try to do these once, maybe twice a week if I can. So it all depends on work, really. But I'll leave that with you. Peace out, rock on, all that good stuff. See y'all later.